Hello and welcome to the Football League podcast. Great to see you. I'm stepping in today for Matt Badcock. My name's Jon Couch. I'm the executive editor of Greenworth Publishing, who produce the Football League podcast. And with us today in his esteemed company, Football League editor Jon Lyons. Hi, Jon.
Afternoon,
and our football chief reporter, Chris Dunlavy. How are you guys?
All right, thank you, Couch.
Yeah, good, Couch. Yeah, good. Thanks, mate.
Good. We had another busy weekend of action, didn't we? In the championship. We won't talk about Friday night too much. Just to let you know, I'm a long suffering Ipswich Town fan, but I promise I won't bore you with all that. But these guys will speak to you a lot more, give you a lot more insight than me in the three top divisions. It's been a busy weekend, and let's start with Middlesbrough, Chris. Close to your neck of the woods. Kim Hellberg coming in, first game, big win for him. Come from behind, beat Derby 2-1. Big result. How big could that be?
Yeah, well, it was just what he needed, because obviously he wasn't in charge. He was in the stand, but they got beat 4-2 at home off Coventry the week in the midweek. So he needed a kind of little pick me up after that, because that was pretty unlucky, that defeat, to be honest. But yeah, he needed a little pick me up, and yeah, it's great for a new manager, isn't it? No one wants to get off to a defeat or even a draw. Really, you want to get off to a good start, and yeah, they did. They look good. I mean, it'll take a while. I think, and he's in Sweden. He was renowned for sort of playing, this high intensity pressing and attacking football and all this stuff. So it'll take a while. And he said himself he'll kind of stick to the formula for now, but. Yeah, it was. They look good, especially coming from behind, and it was nice to see Morgan Whittaker score as well. That was 3-3 for him, because he's had a really tough time since he come from Plymouth. He came from Plymouth with a reputation for scoring goals, especially spectacular goals, and he couldn't hit a barn door in his first sort of 6 months ago. Yeah, he's a good player, and but he just, and I think because he'd come with that reputation. There was a point where the Boro fans were getting, not all of them, but some Boro fans were getting on his back a little bit. And so yeah, he's kind of, it took him a while to find his feet, but he's got going now, and he looks sort of back to his best, really. And the good thing is, I think when he was at Plymouth, a lot of his goals were just, these sort of 25, 30 yarders, which you can't possibly keep up. And if you look at the ones he's scoring now, there's the sort of 6 yards and one from the edge of the box and on Saturday, and he's sort of getting them in different ways, which I think is very encouraging. But yeah, all in all, I think Hellberg he'll be pretty happy. I think you might see changes over time, but there wasn't much wrong with Boro. They were playing well generally, and it continued on Saturday. So yeah, great start.
Yeah, and obviously, as a club, they had a great start. Got sort of derailed quite a bit by the Rob Edwards story. Jon, do you think this could be a big result in their season to sort of get back on track?
Yeah, it's a great start for him, and it obviously just gets that momentum going again that they sort of lost slightly in the sort of the last sort of days of Rob Edwards' reign, and in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks as well. And I mean, Kim Hellberg, it was well documented that it looked as though he was going to go to Swansea, and obviously Middlesbrough have nipped in and got him, and you could see how delighted he was to get that win on that win on Saturday. And obviously we had it on the front page of our paper on Sunday. Great start for him, and Chris did a bit about him as well, that he wants to play that sort of Bielsa style of front foot attacking sort of football as well, but he's going to sort of maybe just sort of ease himself into it. Obviously can't come in the middle of the season and sort of change too much too quickly, but it looks as though it could be an exciting appointment, that one.
It was funny, actually. Because I covered Boro against Coventry last midweek. I was up at the Riverside, and I forgot my phone, so I'd gone up to the press box, forgot my phone, had to come running down, and the game kicked off at 2:15. It was about 22. I came running down, and as I came to get my phone, they were bringing Hellberg through the press room for his big unveiling to go out onto the pitch. So he was sort of getting fussed over by there, putting his hair right, and people straightening his trousers and whatnot. But he looked about 25. When I saw him, I thought he was a player. I thought it was someone who was injured or something, and then I suddenly realised who he was. So, yeah, how young managers are now. But yeah, it was
Amazing.
he came out obviously, and it was a funny game, that, because Boro were really, really good. I mean, they dominated, statistically, they dominated the game. For the first 20 minutes, they were all over Coventry. Probably should have scored. But I think it was that game. I haven't seen. It was the first time I'd seen Coventry live this season. I've seen them on TV quite a bit, but it really made you realise just how dangerous they are. Because Boro, like I said, Boro had a load of the ball. They had a load. They were constantly in Coventry's half, and every time Coventry would break, and every time they crossed the halfway line, they got a shot on goal. It was like 2-3 passes, boom, 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 and they scored with their first shot. They scored again. They could have had about 4 by half time, and they weren't even the better team. It was just like it was a sort of demonstration in efficiency. And in the end, like I say, Boro were unlucky to lose. They got it back to 2-2, and they played really well. But Coventry just create chances, and that's why they've scored 50 goals. That's why they come back all the time as well. Just keep coming back because they are vulnerable. If you watch them, the fullbacks push so high that you can get in behind them, and people have constantly all season. People get in behind them, put balls into the box, and get in from wide areas, but they don't care because they know they can score 4 or 5 times in a game. So they sort of do. Not sure it'll work if they do go up, but they're very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, strikers on form. Sorry, John, I was going to say they got midfielders that mirror their manager, haven't they?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They seem to have got goals coming from all angles, and they take sort of players. Yeah, players come out of the team, and someone else slots in, and then they go on a bit of a goal run. So, yeah, they've certainly got strikers who can score. They've got midfielders who can make those runs that sort of Lampard used to make into the box and what have you. And they've also got centre backs who can sort of chip in with goals as well. So they've got goals coming from everywhere and threats coming from everywhere. I mean, 50 goals in 18 games. Is a phenomenal record. Obviously it could be 36. Can they get to 100 goals in 36 games? Can they double it up? That'd be phenomenal. So they are the great entertainers at the moment, and it's great fun watching them.
Are we looking at the champions here, boys? Do you think?
I've got to say yes, haven't you? I mean, I always think if you score 9 times out of 10, the team who scores the most goals will be at the top of the league, and I mean. They're already it's going to take some overhauling from that point of view. I think the only thing that will stop them is major injuries. I can't really see anything else doing it.
Or if someone comes in for the manager, maybe.
Or if someone comes in for the manager,
yeah. But I mean, last season we had sort of Burnley sort of kind of doing it the other way, didn't we? Sort of grinding out those wins and getting those clean sheets, and now we've got the complete opposite. We've got Coventry just sort of putting teams to the sword and smashing goals in left, right, and centre. So. Yeah, it's great. It's great entertainment this season.
Yeah, that's great to say. I mean, I call myself a long-suffering fan, but those Coventry fans have had a lot haven't had a lot to cheer about over the years, have they? And I'm delighted for them. The fact that they're going so well. But unfortunately, down the road, Leicester City, not so well. Dropped out of the Football League. Dropped out of the Premier League last year. It's not happening for them at all, is it? And Mr. Cifuentes in a little bit of spot of bother, isn't he, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it just there's something just not quite right, is there? I mean, the sort of financial issues have been widely documented in terms of them constantly coming up against profit and sustainability rules, and this interminable hearing that seems to be lasting forever. Into whether they're going to get a points deduction for sort of past falling foul of the rules in the past. I think that's kind of hovering over them, which can't be helpful. But yeah, I think they're probably just paying the price still, really, for the summer when the work that they didn't sack Ruud van Nistelrooy because they wanted to sack him in the next financial year to get it off the books, so they had to wait for ages to get a new manager, and then Cifuentes came in. They didn't really sign any players again because of financial concerns, because of FFP or PSR or whichever acronym you want to use. So they were just at a massive disadvantage, even though they had parachute payments and all the things that should be an advantage, which they were just miles behind. And I think, like we've said before on this podcast, I don't think that they just didn't there wasn't enough up front. They needed, then there still isn't. There just isn't enough there to get to really
get a young Vardy, don't they?
Yeah, well, they lost Jamie Vardy, and fair enough, he was 38. But I mean, I think that again, that was to get his salary off the books, wasn't it? So I think they probably have kept him if they're in an ideal world. But yeah, that's the problem. The sort of financial stuff's just overshadowing everything, and it's I saw Cifuentes saying it's not his focus, he's not bothered about it, but it's affected every aspect of the season. So I don't think it's particularly his fault, but I mean he'll be the one who pays the price ultimately.
Yeah, I mean obviously Saturday went 3-0 down, didn't they, John? Must have been. Give them credit though; they come back to 3-2, and give the fans a little bit of hope. But tough times down there.
It was a horror. I mean, it was a horror start, wasn't it? They were about 2-0 down after about 5 minutes, weren't they? And it was a bit of a shocker there. And give credit to Sheffield United. There were some good goals there, and obviously the first one was from Tom Cannon, ex Leicester striker as well. So he's had a sort of
goal defensively as well.
He's had a difficult time at Sheffield United. Things haven't really gone for him, so good for him to get a goal, maybe sort of boost his confidence a little bit. But Leicester look a team sort of down on confidence at the moment and sort of struggling. So I mean, Jordan James, that was a cracking goal he got on Saturday. So he's been a little bit of a shining light for them so far this season. So they're one of those teams they desperately could do with just a win or two now, just to boost their confidence a bit and get them back on track.
Yeah. Got a bit further north up the M1, and we hit Sheffield, and obviously touched upon Sheffield United, but it's their big rival, Sheffield Wednesday, making all the news again this week, arguably all the wrong reasons. It's difficult times for them, but light at the end of the tunnel, though, Chris.
Yeah, look at this. Batters isn't even here, and we're
I know. I know. We'll do it in honour of Matt Badcock.
It's an odd one, isn't it? We'll keep saying it, but like sort of all the bad news seems to be sort of good news at Sheffield Wednesday at the minute. So they've been docked 6 points, another 6 points for non-payment of wages and whatnot. I think for various things over the last few years. But I think the worry was because there'd been so many missed wage payments that it could have been more. And I think by the letter of the law, it could have been more. But I think there's an appetite, and I think you've seen this recently with cases at Reading particularly. There's an appetite within the AFL now to recognise that there's not an awful lot to be gained by taking points off clubs who are in trouble, and there's a kind of appetite to try and assist and try and help them and try and get them back on their feet. Whereas I think in the past you've maybe seen clubs who were getting docked, 18s and 20s and all this sort of stuff when it didn't help anybody and it didn't punish the owners either.
So 30, didn't they? I think in 1 year.
Exactly. Yeah. It was, and I think that was it. There was a bit of a backlash, and they've realised. So I think what they're trying to do. So I think the rumours are that will be it for points deductions for Sheffield Wednesday, barring any further sort of indiscretions. And there's talk as well that they've currently got a sort of long transfer sort of ban until, was it 2027? I think it was initially due to run. And when they couldn't pay fees, they're talking about if the new owners come in, then that could get lifted at the end of January. So, which will give them a free slate in the summer. I think a lot of those credit, from what I've heard as well, a lot of them, but some of the interested parties are willing to pay more than 25 pence in the pound, pay off the debts. So, which is important because that means you can come out this rate without incurring a penalty. So I think the sort of headline of it all really is that as things stand, assuming a purchase goes through and they have new owners, that obviously it goes without saying they're going to be in League One next season, but they will start with a clean slate with no further punishment coming, and they should at long last start to be able to begin rebuilding really, which I think can only be good news.
It's incredible, really, when you think that everything that's happened down there off the field, the fact that they're still putting out a team on the field that are competitive, and it just seems to be a real good spirit there, and led by Barry Bannon, 36 years old this week. What an influential figure he's been, John, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been brilliant. I mean, one or two of the goals that he's scored as well have been absolute screamers and what have you as well. So yeah, no, he's doing his best. I mean, we were in the office on Saturday, and I think you were on the phone actually at the time when they got that penalty, and I think you were talking to Ballers, weren't you? When they got
Yes,
that
I
penalty
was.
at 2-2, and it looked as though they were going to go sort of back in front, and then all of a sudden, by the time you'd finish your phone call, they
There's
were
no
3-2
phone call.
down. So yeah, it was one of those heartbreaking days for them, really. But you know, I think
Typical of a summer Wednesday.
as we kind of touched on there, obviously it is, there are problems galore at the moment, but there is a hope for sort of, better days around the corner, potentially into next season and what have you.
Yeah,
I always think this about players like Bannon. I wrote about it a few months ago in the Football League paper but just sort of, how players are remembered. And I think you hear a lot of talk about players having, players leaving to further their ambitions and win trophies and all that sort of stuff. But, someone like Bannon probably had numerous opportunities to do that over the years, but he didn't. He stayed, and, in 50 years, he'll still be remembered at Sheffield Wednesday. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. It's not always about the trophies and the medals and all that sort of stuff. It's
100%.
kind of behind, and
wasn't even being paid, and he was still leading the troops, wasn't he? And the manager disappeared, and he was still there, galvanising everyone. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. And he'll be a legend there forever now, really, won't he? That's it. His sort of reputation's set in stone. So yeah, brilliant, really.
Yeah, great stuff. And another club struggling at the moment. My old friends down the road at Norwich, but big win for them at the weekend. Could this be the start of a revival, do you think?
Oh, I mean, Philippe Clement has obviously come in there, and yeah, he seems to made a sort of decent sort of first impression. Obviously, they had that tough start away at Birmingham, but obviously, a lot of people are finding it tough at Birmingham at the moment. So obviously, they had those two. We talked about it last week. They had those two home games coming up against Oxford and QPR. Obviously, the Oxford one was a bit of a choker when they've obviously let that goal in injury time, but obviously then they come back. To have QPR at home just after QPR had been up to Blackburn in midweek, probably sort of worked in their favour, and to get that 3-1 win, get that monkey off their back, get that home win is a massive boost for everyone at the club, and great for the manager to get that first win for himself as well. So they're up and running now. Bit of confidence, bit of momentum. The question is now, can they sort of build on it? Obviously, they need to get Josh Sargent back scoring goals, but at least they proved at the weekend they could score sort of 3 without him.
Yeah, that's it. Chris, what have you made of Norwich this year?
I've said it a few times. I just think they got the recruitment a little bit wrong over the last few years. I think they just took a few too many. They took a few punts on younger players. I suspect they sort of crunched the numbers and looked at players from foreign leagues who they thought could do a job in the Championship, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I just think that you look across the team and there's a few too many who aren't quite ready, and in 2 or 3 years properly integrated, you're looking at a really good team. But yeah, I think they just they just need to get through this point, and with a lot of those players with a year's Championship experience will be much better for it. They'll be a much better team. But I think it was just they maybe got the balance a little bit wrong and didn't have quite enough experience this year.
Yeah. Big game tonight. This is the rearranged game, Blackburn against Ipswich. This is the game, obviously, that was abandoned due to the rain. And as Ipswich travel up for round 2, guess what? We got yellow warnings for floods. So could we be in for a repeat? I hope not, because
honestly, when I think I've been, because I live in this in sort of Yorkshire, and I've been to Blackburn quite a lot, and if I picture it in my mind's eye, I just see rain. Like you go to Weewood Park, and it's just I don't mean a little bit. I mean like tipping it down. And I've been there so many times. I've been to one game where I got out of my car and didn't even get into the stadium, and it got called off. I just got turned around and went back in my car again. And And I went to another game where it's the first half. How this game did not get, I can't remember who it was against. Ben Burton Diaz was playing, so I remember that. But how this game did not get abandoned in the first half is beyond me, because there were literally, like the comedy capers you always see in the rain, where there was literally players who the ball would get played and it would just stop dead, and two players would slam into each other, and like it was just farcical. So but yeah, like it happens. I don't know what it is about the place, but yeah, it's like a magnet torrential rain. Yes,
is it? Yeah.
Go on, John.
I was just going to say, is there some microclimate around Ewood Park, and they seem to
a black cloud around Lancashire,
tipping it down.
It must be. John, have you? Can you remember watching any abandoned games over the years? You've watched a lot of football.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I think down your neck of the woods, I think I remember Aldershot.
Yeah.
I think it was it was a league game. I think maybe midway through the second half, and it just absolutely bucketed down, and that was that then. So that one sort of sticks in the mind. I've just I think I've actually I saw a Blackburn game once. It didn't get called off, but yeah, I remember it was chucking it down there as well. So Blackburn seems to be the place to avoid if you don't like the rain.
I remember the most significant one I ever went to, and I felt really was actually because I live in York, and I'd not long been here. I think it was about 2014, and York were in the League Two playoff semi-finals. They'd got there. I think they'd appointed Nigel Worthington and like had a storming finish to the season where they'd gone from like about 17th to 6th, and they'd got into the playoffs. And it was I think it was like a Saturday night game. It was like a Saturday 5:30 kickoff, something like that. So, the place was bouncing. Everyone was, everyone had a drink. The atmosphere was brilliant. And yeah, it just opened up. And they were delaying kickoff and delaying kickoff and delaying kickoff. And I remember they used to have I think she was a director there, Sophie McGill, later Sophie Hicks. And I remember she had these heels. She had stiletto heels on, and she was standing on the pitch. And she didn't realise, but she'd sunk in. And she tried to move, and she was just stuck in the ground in these heels, and had to be sort of hauled out by somebody to get her out. And I think that was possibly the point where when we realised it wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it was really unlucky because it got postponed. They came back in like a midweek and ended up losing. And I think they lost because the atmosphere was flat as a pancake. And yeah, they ended up losing. So yeah, shame.
Yeah, I mean, they say that when it happens the second time round, that it usually ends up as a different sort of scenario. Obviously, Blackburn were leading controversially 1-0, 10 minutes to go. Can you see a repeat there, or will Ipswich just end up frustrating those home fans even more?
It's not, to be honest, it's not the easiest one to predict because your Ipswich team, Couch, been a bit inconsistent so far this season. I just thought they were turning a corner there. They were just getting on a bit of a roll and getting on a bit of a surge, and then they obviously lost to Oxford on Friday. And fair play to Oxford. They took their chances there and played some good stuff. So that was a massive hammer blow. So you got to think, Ipswich are going to be pretty fired up to get something tonight. But then again, Blackburn, will have that sort of sense of injustice from the last time, obviously being 1-0 up and what have you, sort of fairly late on. You were down to 10 minutes, well, weren't you, Couchy?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, Jacob Greaves was sent off.
Yes,
second half, and then we conceded a penalty. Which Todd Cantwell converted, and I think I was probably about 10 minutes before it was abandoned, I think. But
well, Good Johnson's hit a bit of form for them, hasn't he? He started scoring quite a few goals.
He's a top player.
Yeah, so they're starting to look a bit more with it. So it's going to be probably a bit of a spicy encounter.
Yeah, you just never know who you're going to get with Ipswich. This is our third away game in 8 days, and Kieran McKenna's a little bit of a tinker man at the moment. Literally, it's 6 changes every game, so it will be the same tonight. But I don't know. The fans are a little bit sort of resigned to sort of knowing what to expect. We know how they're going to line up. We know when the subs are going to be made, and it's very, very samey. But the only thing that changes is which Ipswich are going to turn up. Is it be the one that couldn't break down Oxford on Friday, or the one who against QPR and Swansea the last couple of weeks, who have been excellent. Just can't tell. They're a funny old team, Chris, aren't they?
Well, yeah, it's funny you should say about Blackburn turning a corner as well, because Adam Virgo, our regular columnist, actually written a column for this week saying tipping them to struggle and possibly go down. So there we go. It's,
wow.
He sort of, I think he saw them against QPR and said they were absolutely dreadful.
Right.
So yeah, there we go. Two different sides of the coin, but yeah, Ipswich, I can't work it out.
No.
To be honest, I think the same thing I said about Leicester. I just don't think, I'm not entirely convinced there's enough at the top end of the pitch, really. I don't think there's anybody there who looks like scoring 20 goals in a season.
No, I mean, George House has never been what you would call an out-and-out goal-scoring centre forward. He does a lot of work off the field, and that's why Kieran likes him. But we never replaced Liam Delap, and we brought in young Azon. It's going to take him a while to acclimatise, and obviously we've got Chuba Akpom. A lot of discussion as to what his best position is. Kieran likes him as a number 10. The fans will argue he's probably our best number 9 at the moment. So that's sort of kind of where the team is at the moment. He scored his first goal. I think if we can get him flying, we've got Sammy Smodic coming back as well from injury at some point. Hopefully Wes Burns as well. Things will get a bit better, but it's just so up in the air.
Couchy, what about Egley?
Yeah, I really like him. He's young and he's raw, and he really wants to do well for the fans. I think he's got his big chance. Spent a lot of money on him, but
because that was a championship record fee, wasn't it? That was a championship record fee.
It was £21 million. It's a lot of money for for a young lad who hasn't played in English football before. In touches, he's magic feet. His crossfield passes are really good. He likes running at defenders and cutting the ball back. It just hasn't happened for him. You would have thought that we would have a goal or an assist from him yet, and we haven't. So he missed a couple of chances against Oxford as well at crucial stages. But he's a young boy. I think he'll come good.
Yeah, well, for your sake, it's one of those ones where once he gets off the mark, then they keep flowing. Yeah,
that's it. Let's move into League One, which is one place where Ipswich don't want to be again. Leyton Orient. Let's start with them, Chris, because big winners at the weekend. Aaron Connolly absolutely flying. Good times there, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I had a quick look at last season, and it was just about, it was almost exactly this time. It was sort of from about the 3rd of December last year when Leyton Orient went on that incredible run where I think they won like 10 of 30, or I think it was something like that, where they just literally went from sort of looking at a relegation battle to being in the playoffs. And it was exactly this time last year. And, I don't think anybody expects them to do that again. But I think it's sort of a reflection of what Leyton Orient are, where they're a team who, the budget is relatively small. They can't expect to keep the best players, and every summer they lose a chunk. Anyone who performs well for them tends to gets picked off by bigger clubs, and it probably takes them this little bit of time to get gelled and get together and kind of get going. Because if I read somewhere there's barely the team that was in the playoff final last year, I think there was only sort of 4 started at the weekend, which tells you about what's happened to that team with people like Charlie Kelman leaving and stuff like that. So I just think it's interesting. They've suddenly they've been picking up, and it was a bit of a sort of statement win, wasn't it? So, and I think like I say, with Aaron Connolly, he's obviously, I think it's been well publicised. He's had sort of personal issues and things like that, but the net result is somebody who's playing a mile below the level probably, and I think is kind of showing it.
Yeah, John, what have you made of Leyton Orient and their recent revival, should we say?
Yeah, I think probably Chris is right there. they did sort of struggle. It might have been a little bit of a hangover from losing that sort of playoff final, but also the main probably ingredient is losing some of those key men from last season and having to start all over again. And Richie Wellens is a good coach, and he wants to get his ideas across to those new players, get the team to gel. So you get the feeling, they could be one of those teams that sort of gradually improve and pick up as the season goes on. Obviously, Connolly is someone you would expect to chip in with a fair chunk of goals there as well. So and Ballard's scoring some as well. So they've certainly got players that can hit the goal trail and stuff. So that always gives them a chance. And a big win at Burton like that at the weekend won't do their confidence any harm.
Sure, yeah. We'll touch upon, if we may, a couple of clubs that struggling, unfortunately. A little bit of contrast. Exeter City. Let's start with them. Problems off the field, Chris, sir?
Yeah, well, we did a little bit on Wimbledon a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And saying about how they were sort of struggling with the fan-owned model and how they couldn't really sustain themselves. And it seems to be a sort of similar story at Exeter, really. It's a similar thing there. That the general manager has come out and basically said that they're going to have to look at other options because they can't really sustain themselves at that level. On the money that comes through the gate, they're relying on selling players, which isn't a guaranteed form of income. And I think John said about it last time. I think it is that fan ownership model. It's really nice. It's lovely when a club can be run like that. But the sort of sad reality of the economics of it in this day and age is that it doesn't really, it doesn't. If you're up against people who are willing to run up big losses and you aren't, then you literally can't be competitive. I mean, you can't be. So what do you do? Do you run yourself competitively and consign yourself to being uncompetitive, or do you sort of seek outside investment and kind of go the same way as everybody else? It's an awful position to be in, really. It shouldn't be the way. It should be the case that you should be able to be self-sufficient. But yeah, it's unfortunately that's the way it's going. So yeah, I think sooner or later they'll sort of have to make a decision on that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I mean, it's something that works very well in non-league, but as you say, when you get up to that kind of level and more money involved, it becomes a little bit more difficult to manage, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen quite a few clubs now sort of come out of non-league, get up to to League One level, and then it's then the finances go into a whole different sort of whole different ball game, really. Yeah. So and obviously Exeter have had that problem recently with the with the fire there that sort of gutted sort of some of their facilities and what have you, and they've had to sort of crowdfund and sort of raise money that way to try and sort of make repairs and what have you while they wait for the insurance sort of payout. So it's hit them hard. There was a home game there that was called off the other week as well, wasn't there? Obviously, they're meant to. I think they're okay for this week's game against. I think it's Wickham in the cup. So I'm pretty sure they're okay for that one. So they need to obviously get those home games on to get the revenue coming in and what have you as well. So yeah, a little bit of tricky times for Exeter. So like a lot of teams in the FA Cup sort of second round this weekend, it's potentially a huge game because if you can get through, you've got a chance of getting one of those big boys in the third round in the new year and getting a big payday.
Who have they got, John?
I think it's Wickham.
Wickham. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? Like these sorts of games can like totally alter your sort of transfer budget and all sorts of stuff, really, if you get through.
Yeah. So it's an all League One clash there, so that it's going to be all to play for. Yeah. So an interesting one.
And then another club that obviously we wish them very well, but someone else we always wish very well, I think, is everyone's second favourite manager, Darren Moore, struggling a little bit at Port Vale, Chris. They sort of got themselves in a bit of a rut, haven't they?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a fear for Darren there, really, because they just don't seem to be able to turn it around. They obviously came up last year, and I don't think that they didn't really strengthen significantly. Lost a few players, really, and I think I don't think anyone expected me to be doing this badly, but I think, at the end of the day, Darren's, if they're still down, he'll be given time. But I think sooner or later, unless they turn things around, he will pay the price. Unfortunately, they just can't buy a win.
Yeah.
No, it was a bit of an unusual one because it was maybe a year or so ago. I can't quite remember now, but they gave him a 5-year contract.
Yeah,
they did, didn't they?
Which is quite unusual in
quite
unusual in the Football League days with the managerial churn. So
when he left Sheffield Wednesday, he left with his stock quite high, didn't he? I mean, he was he's done a good job there, and obviously thought
he's got Port Vale up. Obviously, he couldn't keep them up that season when he first went in there, but he's got won the promotion last season. Obviously, they lost Tolaj to Plymouth, and he's up right near the top of the scoring charts in League One. So
scored against them, didn't he, last week?
Exactly. So it's a difficult situation there when you've gone up a division and then you've had to, for obviously finances dictate they've had to sell off the top sort of striker and what have you as well. So he's got to sort of keep plugging away and sort of do the best he can, and maybe hopefully they'll stick with him until obviously the new year, and he can strengthen the squad a little bit then and see what bit of business he can do.
Yeah, you've got to assume that 5-year contract's got some significant clauses
in it at the moment. Well, obviously wish him well, and let's move into League Two. And apologies for being doom and gloom merchants, but we've got another couple of clubs wanted to just touch upon before we go. Chris, Harrogate Town struggling at the bottom of League Two, 10 defeats in 13. A little bit worrying times there.
Yeah, well, there's one manager who probably isn't fearing for his job.
He's got a job for life, isn't he? There.
Yes, Dad owns the club, doesn't he? So he might be all right. But I mean, the thing is with Harrogate, I mean, everybody knows really that they're a tiny club at that level. One of the sort of smallest budgets in the league. Sort of every year they stay up as an achievement, really. And they've just had a lot of, at some point their luck was going to run out, and it kind of has, because they've had loads and loads of injuries. They haven't got a deep squad, they've kind of paid the price. They've lost a lot of games, and they've just been missing sort of big players, like Thompson. He's been there for years, really creative player, sort of kind of the driving force for them, really. And he's been out literally. I mean, I think he did his Achilles at the start of last season. Literally in the first game of last season, he was out for the whole of last season. He came back for pre-season and then had more complications and has then been out again. So he's literally been out. Basically their best player has been out for the best part of a year, well, 18 months coming up. So that would affect anyone. But then they've had injuries in defence as well. I think if they can get a few players back, at the end of the day, they're a good enough side to stay up. It's just whether they can get enough players back in time, because the capacity to strengthen in January is quite limited, I would have thought.
Yeah. John, what do you make of what's happening now? Obviously, there was a club you followed in your days of non-league paper editor.
Yeah. I mean, well, as I think Chris has sort of touched on there, they've sort of been sort of probably punching above their weight for a while now, and Simon Weaver has got a great reputation, and he's I think he's the longest serving manager now in the Football League, isn't he? I mean, if you include his non-league days as well into that, so I think I think I'd like to see them sort of stay in there and stuff, and put a run together. Hopefully hopefully they can do maybe a little bit of wheeling and dealing in the new year, and sort of get back on track, because it's a good club.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about them being a small club, but it can affect even the bigger ones as well, and don't really come any bigger in that division than Bristol Rovers, but not much difference in recent fortunes, Chris.
Yeah, there's such a strange club, Bristol Rovers. It always seems to be like famine or feast there. They're either doing really well or really badly, and there never seems to be anything in between. And yet again, like lost a ton of games because obviously Darrell Clarke went in there, and there was I think it was such a feel good factor about that, wasn't there, when he went back, because he was the guy who took them out of the National League, took them up to League One, and then I think he left under a bit of a cloud and didn't get to say his goodbyes properly and stuff. And he came back, and I think they were hoping that was going to be this huge boost and that would kind of get the club going again, and it just hasn't. And yeah, I think what do you say about them, really? I mean, they've got. I'm not sure the recruitment's really worked in the summer. The owners are fairly unpopular with the supporters, which never helps. And yeah, I think Darrell says he's got he came out last week, didn't he, and said he had the support of the owners and that they were stuck by him, and that they knew it would be a long haul to get them back on the straight and narrow. But as it's all very well saying it, isn't it? But if you end up sort of too close to that top two, and they end up looking like the National League could be coming, like how long, how much patience will they have? So yeah, it would be interesting. I don't really know what they can, how the owners would sort of approach it, because they've gone in there and got a fan favourite and tried to get the fans on side by getting Darrell. If the sack him doesn't make it worse, they're in a pretty horrible position now, to be honest.
Yeah, big football club. Been there a couple of times over the years, as I'm sure you have, John. Sad to see him down there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of thinking back, when it's back a while now, but I remember when they had a cracking strike force, Jason Roberts, old Hayes boy, and Jamie Curitan up front as well. I mean, what a strike force that was in the lower divisions, and it's great, a couple of great goal scorers there, and it's a club that should be a bit higher than where they are for sure. You would have thought at least in League One. So it's a little bit sad to see them sort of down in League Two, and as you say, as Chris was saying there, they do seem to be one of these teams. They'll put a great run together, and then they'll go on a massive slump. So one of those teams, one of those clubs that's very hard to figure out.
Yeah, very much.
It's all great players. Elliot Anderson was there a couple of years ago, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, true. Yeah.
And that was when they obviously had that 7-0, the 7-0 on the final day to get that promotion, and Joey Barton was the manager there, and obviously Northampton were left. Northampton were left gutted when Northampton won, didn't they? I think was it up at Carlisle they won. I can't remember now. They won 3-1, didn't they? And then they still didn't go up because Scunthorpe didn't impress that day at Bristol Rovers, did they? So it was 7-0, and that was that.
We touched upon it earlier. Obviously, FA Cup this weekend. Any ties that particularly caught your eye, chaps?
Well, one that sort of looks quite interesting to me is probably Swindon against Bolton.
Right.
That looks quite a good one. I was chatting to Ollie Clark, the Swindon captain last week, and we're just talking really about the impact that Ian Holloway has had at Swindon over the last year, and it's been quite phenomenal, really, because obviously he came in and the club was sort of right down, I think it's just above the League Two drop zone. They were in a bit of a mess, and he sort of turned their fortunes around last season, and they sort of finished. I think they finished about mid-table, but it did look as though even at one point they might sort of put a miracle charge in and get into the playoffs. He's got them right up there again in League Two this season. Little bit strange because there's been one or two moments where he's been a bit tetchy with the club's fans, or more specifically the home fans at the weekend after they sort of won at Chesterfield. So he seems a little bit miffed that maybe there's sort of been a rise in expectations now, and some maybe some fans are slightly sort of critical maybe of some of his decisions or whatever, but it does seem surprising because he's had an amazing year there, and he's got his win percentages up almost at 50%, and from where he was when he took over to where they are now, it's been a phenomenal rise. So that Swindon Bolton game could be an interesting one. See him playing one of the top League One teams, and I'm sure he'll have them fired up for it.
I think if you're looking for an upset, potentially probably best look at Blackpool at home to Carlisle.
Yeah.
Very, very. I think if it was the other way around, you'd be, I think Carlisle wouldn't be far off being the favourites. But I think Blackpool really sort of got a little bit of a bounce under Ian Evatt, didn't it? But then it's all trailed off. I think they've lost 3 in a row, and Carlisle flying in the National League, scoring goals. So I think that's it. Funnily enough, I saw Carlisle play York a couple of months ago, and they were absolutely dreadful. Got smashed 4-0, played off the park, but since then,
yeah,
been really good. So I think that's one where there might be 2 divisions between them, but there's not actually that many places between them, and the form is all on Carlisle's side. So I think Blackpool have their work cut out in that one. I
think with my non-league hat on, I'm going to throw Bournemouth versus Newport County into the mix there. The game on Sunday. For those who might want a little bit of a left wing flutter, I think Bournemouth have got a really, really good FA Cup record in recent years under Luke Garrard, and they won't fear Newport County at all. Beat Crawley 3-0 in the last round. They've got the TV cameras there again. They'll absolutely relish that, and not the place I reckon that Newport County will fancy going on Sunday. So but no, obviously plenty of ties there, and lots to get teeth into. John, what can we expect in the Football League paper this week?
Well, it's going to be a slightly different week this week, because as we've got the mixture of obviously the Championship games. We've got a little bit of League 1 and 2, and then obviously we've got a batch of FA Cup games. So it's going to be a real mixture. I think, as Chris was mentioning there, we've got Adam Virgo with his guest column this week, and obviously our regular features and what have you, and obviously it'll be bumper sort of coverage of the Championship and obviously the other games that we've got. So fingers crossed it's going to be a good addition.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, we'll wrap it up. Thanks ever so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe and all the things that good YouTube channels do. Boys, thank you very much. Enjoy yourself. Wrap up. Keep yourself dry over the weekend. I think it's going to be another long weekend weather-wise. But all the best. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.